Clay Blackiston went 51-8 during his varsity career on the men's squash team. And he was an integral part of Princeton's run to the 2012 National Championship. He went 14-2 as a senior, playing in the middle of the lineup, and he was one of only 2 Princeton players to go undefeated throughout the national championships. In the final team match, Blackiston rallied from a 2-1 deficit to score Princeton's first victory over Trinity. That match ultimately helped Princeton score a 5-4 win, which ended Trinity's 13-year run as national champions. Clay Blackiston is a philosophy major, and he will be our second keynote speaker.
I'm not athletic. Doug Davis is the second highest scorer in Princeton men's basketball history, behind Bill Bradley. I was banned from playing middle school basketball at recess because I couldn't grasp the concept of dribbling. Don Cabral broke the all-time collegiate steeplechase record less than 1 month ago and is contesting to qualify for the Olympics. I play squash. So I'm not going to try to summarize all of your athletic experiences tonight. I'm just going to tell you a story. In 2006, when I was merely a sophomore in high school, Trinity had dominated college squash for the past 7 years, winning 134 matches straight, the longest winning streak for any college sport. In their regular season with Trinity that year, Princeton tied the match at 4-all, leaving it all up to our number 1 player, Yasser El-Halabi, who is the best player in the history of college squash. Yasser was far superior to his opponent, so with the overall score tied and Yasser on court, it was a shoo-in victory for Princeton. After making quick work of his opponent in the first 2 games, Yasser served at match ball, seconds away from beating Trinity. The Trinity coach even shook our coach's hand, saying congratulations. But Yasser lost that point. His opponent pulled off an unfathomable comeback. Trinity's winning streak survived. 3 years later, I arrived on campus as a freshman. I was elated to play on the Princeton squash team. Bob Callahan, who has coached here for 30 years, said that year we had the best lineup in Princeton squash history. That was the year we were finally going to win it all and beat Trinity, who had extended their winning streak now to 201 matches in a row. In the finals of the national championship in Jadwin Gym that year, we faced off against Trinity. After 6 hours of squash, it all came down to our number 1 player. He was up 5-0 in the 5th and final game. But once again, somehow, Trinity's player came back and won the match. Trinity had beaten us in the finals of nationals for 4 years in a row. A week later, I wrote my coach saying that I felt like someone had died. And in a sense, something had died, at least within me. The dream had died. I realized there was no point in caring about squash. We had just had the best team in Princeton history and we still couldn't win with it. This disillusion carried over to my sophomore and junior year. The walk to Jadwin became a daily event I dreaded. I no longer looked forward to practice. My heart was not in squash. I think all of us enter this existential crisis at one point or another. As you go through the daily motions and grinds of your life, you wonder, what is the point in doing this? Squash, at the end of the day, is just 2 opponents smacking a rubber ball against a wall. And then we declare winners and losers at the end. But who cares? But this year, my attitude began to change. From the first day I stepped on campus, I had one prevailing thought: graduation. It dawned on me that this was my last chance to play college squash. I started to regain my heart and believe once again that we could finally beat Trinity. On a weekend that felt ominously similar to my freshman year, Nationals were at home again this year. And in the finals, lo and behold, it was us versus Trinity. After going down 4-2 in matches, we then tied the score back at 4-all. Once again, it all came down to one match. This time, finally, that last match went our way. That day was the happiest day of my life. But much more importantly, what I have just told you is the most incredible story I have ever been a part of. Yet, I suspect most of you did not know this story, or perhaps only knew the ending. And what I realized is that most of the world will never know this story. Compared with a sport such as tennis or baseball, very few people play or watch squash in this country. Squash is never on SportsCenter's top 10 plays. When we won Nationals this year, ESPN's total coverage amounted to 110 words in the other sports section of their website. A lot of people don't even know what squash is. Earlier this year, while stopped in a gas station on our way to Dartmouth, a teammate of mine was asked what squash was by someone at the checkout counter. My teammate responded, "Oh, it's an indoor racket sport, a lot like racquetball." "Oh, I see," the person said with a nod. "So is that like water polo?" I have realized that a total of a few thousand or so people would even find out about our victory. And most people, even those fans who were ecstatically cheering for us in the front row, have moved on with their lives after about a week. So in a sense, we really had been just smacking a rubber ball around a court. So what was the point? Well, despite the fact that our victory probably didn't matter to most of the world, it still mattered to me. Even if it wasn't a big accomplishment to the average Joe sitting at his TV set, it was still part of this unbelievable story of Princeton squash. Likewise, Princeton basketball may not have made it past the first round of the NCAA tournament in 2011, but when Doug Davis hit that buzzer beater to catapult the men's team into the tournament, I've never felt so much school pride. Being a part of a story and creating our own stories is perhaps the most important thing we can do with our lives. What are our lives, other than stories which we each author? We must create these stories, regardless of whether or not they become New York Times bestsellers. In order to do so, we must avoid the jaded attitude I had my sophomore and junior year. We must have the naivete of a freshman, to give ourselves without hesitation to a dream we believe in. And most of all, the desperation of a graduating senior, reminding yourself that this precious life is our last chance. Thank you.